the 10111 line is in crisis, and that's according to crime activists in the Western Cape. The issues with the SAPS crime line are said to date back as far as 2020. The latest complaint in the Western Cape says that the line has not been operational for over a week now. Communities are said to be using WhatsApp groups instead to report crimes or indeed to call for help. Let's get you an update on this issue. We're joined this morning by the SAPS spokesperson, Athlenda Mathe. It's great to talk to you. Thanks very much indeed for coming onto the program. Of course, I don't need to tell you that this is a situation that is untenable.
Well, a very good morning and thank you for the opportunity. The SAPS has been working around the clock to address the power supply challenges that were experienced at our Maitland 10-1 call center this week. The SAPS Maitland call center is linked to 13 police stations in Cape Town, and it experienced challenges due to the aging infrastructure, where communities were able to reach the call center and we were able to receive a call. The challenge there was dispatching the calls to our vehicles. But what we did, we had a contingency plan in place where we had to go back to the old methods and basics of dispatching, the way it was done before the advent of technologies, where we dispatched the call to the landline and mobile number of the shift commander of the respective station. The shift commander will then dispatch complaints to the vehicle, and the result will be given back to the 10-1 call center and so on. So our telephone lines were not affected in terms of how the community reached the 10-1 call center. It's an issue of the dispatching, but we ensured that the contingency plan is in place and members were then directed through telephone and WhatsApp to these emergency incidents.
I mean, you talk about, going back to the way things were operational before technology. But I mean, in 2024, that's never how we should be working, right? There's a reason why we have this technology in place, and that is to get help where it's needed and to get that help as fast as possible.
Okay. Indeed, it is a longer process to dispatch calls, obviously the old way of doing things. But what is key is that the aging infrastructure was identified. In December, we have already issued a tender to a company that will overhaul the whole system and will upgrade the whole system to ensure the proper and effective functioning of the 10-1 call center in Cape Town.
So, Athlenda, one thing that I do want to ask you is about, the amount of time that it does take now in the event of these power supply challenges, as you call them. And we know in an emergency situation, time is everything, right? Minutes can make a difference. We've got incidences, and it was reported in the newspapers this week, of police being on the scene of a gang shootout and needing to call for backup and being unable to do so because of the Maitland call center not being able to accept their calls.
Time is very important when it comes to responding to incidents by our members, and that is why, as the SAPS, the National Commissioner, and everyone is working closely with the Project Management Office of the Presidency. We are busy rolling out a project plan to improve the functioning of all SAPS 10-1 call centers. This plan is in place to restore capacity and capability of operations to respond to all emergency calls and communication received. We have been responding to complaints this past week in Cape Town, although it took longer than expected due to this challenge. But we have acquired the necessary parts that were needed for the system to be running. But like I've indicated, there is a bigger project that is underway to overhaul the whole system, to upgrade the whole system, to ensure that such incidents do not occur.
Yeah, and one wonders what the cost to life has been. I can't imagine that this has happened and that there hasn't been a very steep price for communities to pay, Athlenda?
Well, in the Cape Town area, Michelle, you will recall that we've got our anti-gang unit that is there, that is on the ground, that is ensuring that we attend to complaints that are not even received via the 1011 call center, but we are ensuring heightened police visibility. We are investigating incidents, but we are tracing, most importantly, those that are behind gang wars and gang turfs in the area of Cape Town.
I want to bring in Ruan Vermaak. He is the spokesperson for Crisis on Call. And Ruan, Crisis on Call, I think flagged this initially, this issue insofar as call centers being down, flying squads not being able to, I mean, the term flying squad sort of becoming a misnomer because, you know, it takes so long to actually dispatch these squads to emergency situations. Athlenda Mathe from the SAPS is telling us now that it is an issue that has been identified by police, that they have found alternatives of getting around this issue. What's your take on the story?
Good morning, everyone. So out of experience and out of what we do to assist the public in South Africa, it is quite alarming that crime stats keep on picking up in South Africa. Regards to alarming high criminal activities over the whole of South Africa. And the take on the news that actually stated quite numerous times, they stated that there is a massive problem that 10111 is facing at this very moment. So in the meanwhile, we as Crisis on Call started to assist clients and the public of South Africa with a private alternative number just to assist them in the meanwhile so that they can get assistance when they need it most.
That Athlenda, is a situation that's untenable, right? It cannot be that a private security company is giving South Africans an alternative to 10111.
And that is why it's all hands on deck on this particular issue of the 10111 call center. We are working hard to ensure its proper functioning. I think it's important to state that all 10111 centers are receiving and attending to complaints on a daily basis, although at the Maitland call center in the past week we did experience those challenges internally. I can give you an example. At our biggest call center in Midrand, during the peak season, from the 1st of December to the 31st, we received more than 300,000 calls, and only 64,000 of these calls were policing related, and they were all attended to. So this is just an example of to say that we are attending to those complaints. But apart from the policing related complaints that are coming through our call centers, we also receive other calls of municipal related issues. We receive the Department of Health. When people are in need of health services, they call the 10111 call centers. So that also poses a challenge to us. We cannot drop those calls. We have to redirect them to the necessary assistance. But what is also key, Michelle, is that to ensure capacitation, because another challenge at our 10111 call centers is capacity. We have 535 newly trained constables that graduated in December that have been allocated to the 10111 call centers countrywide. The members that graduated are currently still busy with the practical part of their training and will, as soon as their training is finalized, be deployed to each and every call center that we have in the country. But with regards to the upgrading of radio communication in the in Cape Town, it is something that we have identified, and it is what we are attending to now.
Yeah. I want to ask you, Ruan, I'll come back to you in just a second if you could just keep standing by, Athlenda. These problems are not new. Yes, the most recent issues with 10111 in the Western Cape and the Maitland call center were identified in December, Athlenda, as you say. But they're not new, right? These problems are long-standing as far back as 2020. So when you say that, we are on it, we are finding solutions to it, it's now 2024. What solutions have been found since these problems first arose in 2020?
Well, like I've indicated, The Cape Town Maitland 10-1 call center, the challenge there is the aging infrastructure. We are to follow the proper procedure to ensure that we award to a tender to a company that will overhaul the whole system, upgrade the whole system to ensure the effective and running of this particular system. So it is an issue that has been there, but there have been contingency plans in place where our technicians have been attending to the power supply issues that are being experienced at the 10-1 center, which is as a result of the aging infrastructure. So it is something that we are attending to, and we are hoping that by the end of the 2024-2025 financial year, this would have been concluded. But in between, there are those contingency plans in place that we are implementing as the SAPS to ensure that service delivery does continue.
Ruan, I want to bring you back into the conversation, just insofar as that alternative number that you've provided to communities as an alternative to 10-111. I understand there's also a WhatsApp line that has been set up so that communities are able to get help in emergency situations when they need it. Of course, there are other issues that come alongside a WhatsApp line, right? In places like Khayelitsha, when we have load shedding, there is no signal. There is no way to send a WhatsApp. And so the problem just keeps spiraling, snowballing.
Yes. So basically, first of all, I want to say to the lady that just explained everything quite well. That hats off to the South African Police Service for trying to make this problem and to sort out this problem. There's a lot of police officers out there that I actually personally know, and we are working hand in hand with a lot of the police officers. And, you know, there's a lot of police officers that really works hard and long hours and try to keep the country safe. Yet again, there's a lot of challenges that has been faced, like the ones that she mentioned. So there's not a WhatsApp line. It is an app that you can download from Crisis on Call. We call it a Help 247 application. And as a member of Crisis on Call, you can then use this. It has an integrated panic button that basically gives you the correct location. So how Crisis on Call works is we're working with the infrastructure that is already existing. So we just get the calls quicker to the police service and to get the people there. So we are not a security company. We are working together hand in hand with security companies, as well as the South African Police Service, as well as the medical infrastructure that is currently in place, your private sector, governmental sector, whatever. So we are really here to assist the public just to get an alternative in the meanwhile, so that they can get help. Because if someone faces not necessarily a burglary at their home, but let's say a heart attack, you need services quick. You can't wait 2 or 3 hours. That's the thing. And there's a lot of other challenges that brings this up as well, like the load shedding, as you just mentioned. The robots are off, and there's a lot of things that actually is quite alarming. That brings problems in South Africa. So we are not against 10-111 at all. We are basically taking hands with them to ensure that we can render a service to the public.
Ruan Vermaak is the spokesperson for Crisis on Call. Athlenda Mathe is the SAPS's spokesperson. To both of our guests, thanks very much indeed for joining us. It's yet another example of communities having to cobble together a solution where one should already be in place.